in your opinion, what do you see is this blacks wanting to hold on to whites? Because I listened to Tyreek and you kept saying something that I was in agreement with. You said, hey, why don't we just let blacks have black stuff? We have our stuff. We'll even separate it somewhere. And he kept saying, we've already tried that. We've already tried that. That didn't work. You just bomb us. You just bomb us. And you were like, okay, that happened then. This is a new day. We're renegotiating this thing. And he just kept wanting to go back to that. Now, to give you something about Tyreek, his wife is a mixed Jew. She's a black woman mixed with Jewish. You see pictures of him with his mother-in-law, who's a white woman. He lives in a completely white neighborhood, brags about living in a completely white neighborhood. He talks trash to any black person who does not have the riches that he has. So while he gets on television saying whites won't allow blacks to become rich, he makes fun of blacks who aren't as rich as him. That's why I said I think he's a troll, because it doesn't make sense that this man could be pro-black and he goes home to a white Jewish mother-in-law. None of it makes sense. And I'm listening to him argue with you about how whites are so bad and have done things wrong to blacks. Yet when it came to the idea of you saying, you're right, let's separate, he wouldn't do it. What is contributing to that mentality of, you guys are bad, but we want to stay with you?
You know, what that reminds me of is Louis Farrakhan. The Nation of Islam, in their periodical, their newspaper, it's called The Final Call, I believe. In the inside back page of every issue, if they're still publishing it that way, it lists the demands of the Nation of Islam. And one of the demands is separation. They say, how can the sons of the slave owner and the sons of the slave live in harmony together? And the whole idea of the Nation of Islam was to, in fact, create a nation, a separate society. And I think that that is something that is now just eyewash. I don't believe that the Nation of Islam, and I don't believe Louis Farrakhan, have their hearts in that idea. You remember the Million Man March? I can't remember, this is what, early 90s? How long do you have to go back to the Million Man March? This was the opportunity that Louis Farrakhan had to speak to not only the largest live audience in his life, but the largest televised audience. And I was thinking, okay, Louis, now is your chance. Now is your chance to lay out your plan. Well, he talked about the mothership floating around out there. He talked about numerology. He talks about all kinds of crazy things. Of course, he talked about racist white people. Not one word about separation. Not one word. And I suspect, and I don't know if he'd ever admit it, I suspect that Louis Farrakhan has looked around the world. He's looked at Haiti. He's looked at Africa. He's looked at black communities in various parts of the world. And maybe it's dawned on him that if blacks are really separate, and if they have to take responsibility for their society, it's not going to be a pretty place. And that he and his Nation of Islam are much better living in the United States with enough white people to make sure the airplanes stay up in the air, to make sure the roads stay paved, to make sure the electricity comes in when it's supposed to come in. They're much better living in that society, but with these constant demands, constant prodding to the white man to keep us on the back foot, always apologizing, always making sure that we say, no, sorry, we can do better next time. That is my suspicion about Louis Farrakhan. Now, I do not want to impute motives because I've had so many base motives imputed to me. But at the same time, I just do not think that there are any black people that there are some that I've heard of. There are some that I'm aware of but there are very, very few blacks who really want to have the responsibility of running the show completely and for all responsibility to fall on them. Yeah. Most of the time when I ever discuss this with black people, they say, well, okay, you got to start us off with each $1 million or, well, wait a minute. Society doesn't work that way. You know, if you think that you are this great nation, that the wealth of the United States derives from the work of slaves, you have got to be productive enough to work things out for yourselves. I just don't think many blacks are prepared to make that leap of faith, and it's faith in their own abilities, which I think if you look hard enough, it's just not there.